Ethan stood by his wife's hospital bed, the rhythmic beeping of the monitors underscoring his frustration. "Why do you keep living, tormenting me like this?" he muttered, his hand twitching toward the IV line. A young nurse, Lily, entered the room, prompting Ethan to quickly withdraw and feign innocence. "Where's the new doctor?" he demanded brusquely. "In room 5, she replied. "How is she?" He nodded toward his wife, Emily. "She had a rough night, but we stabilized her. Don't worry, we have excellent doctors here." Ethan clenched his fists, his knuckles whitening. "You said there was little hope, yet my wife has been here for 4 months," he snapped, confronting Dr. Harris as he exited the neighboring room. "I'm sorry, what?" "I'm Emily Thompson's husband." "Ah, yes, we're doing everything we can. She has youth on her side." "What are the prospects?" Ethan's voice wavered with anxiety. "I can't make any promises. We don't plan to disconnect her from the ventilator or bring her out of the coma at this time. You're just draining my finances, keeping her like this." "That's not true. There's been good progress since the last surgery," Dr. Harris began, reaching for Emily's chart to show the latest results. But Ethan turned on his heel and left without another word. Instead of heading to the office, he drove home, realizing too late that he'd run a red light. Cursing under his breath, he pressed harder on the accelerator. 4 months earlier, in a similar fit of anger, he'd sped through a red light, leading to the catastrophic collision with a truck that had left Emily in this state. They had been married just over a year, a seemingly perfect couple with a comfortable life. Emily, at 28, had inherited her parents' business and was managing it successfully. Ethan, 2 years her senior, came from a modest background but was ambitious, working as a manager in a reputable trading company. They met at an exhibition, and a whirlwind romance ensued. In the beginning, Ethan was content, freely spending Emily's money and quickly acquiring a luxury car. But soon, it wasn't enough. He began by hinting, then asking, and eventually demanding control over her company. "Why?" Emily would ask, puzzled. "We have everything: a house, cars, money. Why do you need official control? Everything is already ours." "You don't understand," Ethan would retort, growing agitated. "It's all yours. I feel like an accessory. I work just as hard, if not harder. I'm the man of the house." The first year marital bliss was unraveling, with frequent arguments and accusations. "I don't get it." "Love. A piece of paper won't change anything. We'll still be husband and wife. What's the point? How will we explain it to clients? They're used to trusting me, our family name. Do you want to change the company's name too?" Emily's frustration was evident. "I don't want to change anything. I want you to value and respect me. But you're just using me. You have power of attorney. You can sign all the documents. Isn't that trust?" Emily shouted as Ethan sped up. Ethan was at fault for the accident, though he refused to admit it. There were no reliable witnesses, and the truck lacked a dashcam. The accident site was out of the range of nearby surveillance cameras. Ethan had deliberately erased his car's dashcam footage, claiming he'd forgotten to insert the memory card. A week later, Ethan returned to the hospital, still dissatisfied with Emily's condition. "Talk to her. She can hear you, even if unconsciously. There are so many cases where patients wake up because they're loved ones." Nurse Lily began. "Enough," Ethan interrupted curtly. Offended, Lily left the room. Ethan gripped Emily's hand so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Her hair, shaved for the last surgery, was beginning to grow back, the same hair he'd once adored. But now, all he wanted was for Emily to be gone. So everything she owned would rightfully become his. Over the past 4 months, he'd become accustomed to the idea, dismissing any other outcome. Ethan was already living as if Emily were no longer alive. "Do you want me to help you leave? It won't hurt," he whispered, smiling down at her. Her eyelids fluttered faintly. "You're tired of this. So am I. I'll help you. I know how." "You're here?" Dr. Harris appeared in the doorway. "Good to see you. I've adjusted her treatment plan, introduced new medications." "Do whatever you think is best," Ethan cut him off, leaving the room without another word. The idea of getting rid of his ailing wife consumed him, becoming an obsession. Emily opened her eyes and felt a hot, burning tear slowly rolling down her cheek. She could hear everything, every word from her husband, her Ethan. She had wanted children with this man. She had wanted to grow old with him. Emily closed her eyes, Her strength had left her again. When Nurse Lily arrived, Emily opened her eyes and looked at the young woman. Lily was mechanically doing her job, not paying attention to the woman lying in bed. Emily managed to move her fingers when Lily approached closely. "You're awake," Nurse Lily exclaimed, and went to fetch Dr. Harris. Dr. Harris examined Emily and smiled gently, looking into her blue eyes. "Well done, dear. You're strong. You'll make it." Of course, she didn't know that this very thin, weak woman had gathered all her remaining strength to stay alive. Some secret, unknown forces had activated her body. "We need to inform your husband of the good news," Dr. Harris announced and looked at Nurse Lily. "No," Emily managed to say in a quiet, weak voice, and repeated, "No." "Do you want to gather strength?" Dr. Harris nodded understandingly. "All right, we'll postpone this until tomorrow." "Agreed. Extra emotions aren't needed right now." "I fear my husband." Emily shook her head from side to side the next morning when her strength had returned. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Don't worry. Everything's fine. I'll call the on-duty doctor." Dr. Harris, the new doctor who had been attending to patients in this department for just a few weeks, arrived half an hour later. I know everything, and I'm very glad you woke up on your own. Now everything will be fine." Emily cried again. "There's no need to cry. It takes so much strength to do that, you might forget how to breathe." "My husband came and said he would take my life," I heard. "What are you talking about?" She nodded, gathering her strength. "Don't let him near me, please. And call Mr. Gregory Bennett. Let him come." Dr. Harris looked at Nurse Lily, then back at the patient. "Administer a sedative." "Please." Emily began to cry. Dr. Harris left, and Nurse Lily, after giving the injection, looked at Emily and said, "I'll keep an eye on you. Your husband also seemed strange to me." "Call Mr. Gregory Bennett," the patient quietly requested. Emily fell asleep again, and when she opened her eyes, she felt someone was in the room. Before her, sprawled in a chair, sat Ethan. Emily closed her eyes, pretending to be unconscious again. "I know you're awake," Ethan hissed, leaning over his wife. "You decided to come back, but you shouldn't have done that. What are you doing here?" "She shouldn't be disturbed," Nurse Lily shouted. "All questions to the doctor. Leave or I'll call security. Girls, call the post." Nurse Lily anxiously rushed into the corridor. Ethan stood up and calmly walked towards the exit. "I'll be back, so either on your own or I'll help you," Ethan pointed at his wife. Emily felt her heart race, and the monitor she was connected to beeped. Nurse Lily returned to the room and pointed at the door. He's gone. God, I was so scared for you. How did he get in?" "Call Mr. Gregory Bennett." "I don't know who that is. There's no information in your chart." Emily closed her eyes. How mobile phones save us in emergencies and, on the other hand, make us trust and not memorize the numbers of the people we need. Search for the company Thompson & Co. Mr. Gregory Bennett arrived to see Emily late in the evening. He was very surprised that she was in the hospital. "Ethan said you were in Bali, resting, preparing for motherhood." Emily bit her lip. Nurse Lily wanted to leave, but Emily asked her to stay. "Cancel the power of attorney and make one for yourself. My husband planned for me to never leave here. He doesn't want me to live and will do it when the opportunity arises." Emily gathered her strength and continued. "Hire me security. If there is still money in the accounts, sell the car, the country house, or the apartment if there's no money. Mr. Gregory Bennett, I can only turn to you." The man nodded. "I worked with your father. I watched you grow up. Don't worry, I understand. I'll take care of everything." "Yes. And the phone," he smiled. The next morning, an unfamiliar man appeared in the hospital. He was dressed in hospital uniform and tried to act as if he had been working here for a long time. Mr. Gregory Bennett arrived with the power of attorney and other documents. "I've blocked all accounts and took his car. Ethan will be left with nothing. I'll make sure of that," the man reassured Emily. "Did he give it?" She was surprised. "Of course. He didn't want to. But I convinced him." "Convinced," the man repeated, as if confirming his words. "He's alive, don't worry, but I've humbled him so he understands. You won't see him again. I've taken all measures. It's not the first time. Your father and I have subdued even worse." Mr. Gregory Bennett kept his word. When Emily was discharged from the hospital, she spent a long time recovering at home. She did change apartments. She couldn't stay in the place that reminded her of her ex-husband. She officially divorced Ethan. but she became very close friends with Nurse Lily, and they often have tea together and talk. And Lily's brother comes to pick her up, who looks at Emily with great admiration. But she's not ready yet. Maybe later. That's how the story ends, friends. Join the conversation below and share your thoughts on this story. If you found it captivating, share the link with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss a new story that will make your heart race. Your support inspires us to create more tales. Take care and see you next time.